Good afternoon, everybody. Griffin here from Talking Trek, the official podcast of Star Trek Fleet Command, with a very special treat for you to start off the year 2025. Obviously, we're in the beginning of the year of Hell arc, Star Trek Voyager, close to my personal heart. And today I have very special guests to talk about what we're going through in the game this month. Community Manager Obsidian Hamster. Obsidian Hamster, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to be here. Really excited to start talking about the new arc. Thanks for
Me
having us, Griffin.
too. I'm sure that you've already been into it on Discord and the official channels.
Yep.
Everybody talking about what's new and cool in the game. And not only is Hammy with us, but we have somebody from game design that I'm very excited to introduce you to, somebody who worked very closely on this arc and somebody with the background of Star Trek in their past as well. And that is the one and only CHRONOTIS. Good afternoon, CHRONOTIS. How are you, sir?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's good to be here. Nice to meet you.
Welcome to the Kitty Cat Litterbox family here on Talking Trek. How are you doing today out there?
I'm doing great. It's been a lovely day.
Are you like a proud papa when you see an arc launch like this and you work so intently on it? Obviously, you're on pins to needles and you want everybody to love what's out there in the game, I imagine. It must be an exciting week for you when that happens.
Yeah, it's been a great week so far, watching all the players strategize, talk, just discuss all the how do we beat these things. I know I've got a solution. Let's try this. And just seeing the players, the solutions they're coming up with, and all the discussion around everything. How do we beat these guys? How do they work? What ships do we use? What crews do we use? And seeing all of the community respond and share this knowledge has been great to see how well they're doing and improving and solving the problem over the space of such a short time as well, like literally 2 days.
Well, we are big on what we call crew jitsu here on this channel, where we talk about the best crews and their abilities and how they work together. And, there are some brand new officers that have been out in recent months, and there are some oldies but goodies that we like to bring in as well. So coming up with those combinations is a big part of what we enjoy doing here in the game as well. So it's always fun to have new targets that work in new ways, but maybe also interact with some older aspects of the game, maybe an older artifact or forbidden tech or a particular ship or, of course, officers. So yeah, seeing that happen in the first week is a lot of fun and a big part of what we do here on this channel. But before we get started on Year of Hell and your involvement and the particular components of it, tell us about your background in Star Trek. How did Star Trek first enter your life?
Oh, well, as like a young, spry 10-year-old, I grew up watching The Next Generation. So, and yeah, I loved, just every day watching Picard, watching the gang go on adventures, save the galaxy. And it was very formative. I think a lot of us have shared that same story where it's like, wow, Star Trek was really a part of my formative years. And then that moved on to watching Voyager, to watching all the movies that came out around Next Generation. I pretty much watched them all. And, usually I'm one of those where within a few seconds of seeing a few frames of an episode, I can usually tell which episode it is. That kind of level of fan, worship. And then DS9 came along, and it felt I've watched pretty much everything, even enjoyed Lower Decks. I even watched Discovery and I'm watching Strange New Worlds, looking forward to the new season. So yeah, I would say I'm pretty hardcore when it comes to being a Trek guy.
Pretty well versed.
I love all the discussion we have, the narrative gang in the background, and it's nice to be able to take part in that and just look at all the different ways and all the laws coming to life.
Just sidebar, I know that the narrative portion of the game is a different aspect than game design. Obviously, you work together, but how do you feel the narrative team did this month? Isn't it just like watching an extension or a new episode of Voyager? You loving it?
Exactly. And based on Year of Hell, which is one of the best episodes ever in the Voyager season, that was so iconic. And to be able to base the whole theme of this release around that was great, because it gave us loads of material and ideas about, okay, what is this? What is the theme of this release? What is the cool, exciting thing? Who's the big bad? And be able to give people a drawback. Oh yeah, that's like the Year of Hell. That's when they went through so much suffering, and Janeway got burnt, and Tuvok went blind, and everything else that happened in those episodes. And they were fighting the Krenim, who were trying to alter the timeline.
The ship literally exploded. And not only that, but what I loved about the Year of Hell, and I talked to Ultimate DJs about this, is how it really started the season before, in season 3, when Kes was still around. There was the episode where Kes started as an old woman and went younger and younger and younger and younger, and it turned out that missile that was launched into Voyager a year later during the Year of Hell was a big cause of that in making that timeline happen. So seeing those 2 years tie together really made Year of Hell stick out for me. And seeing the Krenim again and some of their weapons and all of those things re-enter the game is a really special treat for me and for many people who love Voyager.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're very excited because you watched Voyager first run when it was on the air, right?
Yes, yeah, the original runs back then, and even then it was great. A ship trapped in a galaxy far, far away, the Delta Quadrant, trying to make their way home, and trying to
With a
survive.
female captain. Gasp.
Yeah,
Back in the 90s, all these ideas were new and fresh, and was it going to work? And now these days it's like, NBD, but it's kind
and poor Harry Kim never got his promotion until Lower Decks came out, and it was a fun to see everyone riffing off that one in Lower Decks.
Our forever ensign. That's right. So, anyways, obviously, if you're going to do a Year of Hell arc in Star Trek Fleet Command, fast forwarding to today, the Krenim are going to be a big part of it, and they're going to be a bad guy. This time around, something new has happened in the game that I don't think we've seen before, which is really two versions of the same hostile attacking us at the same time. Ultimate DJs gives the label on it 2 loops. I don't think it's 2 loops. It's all in the same, it's all in the same universe. It's all in the same faction store. We're doing the same thing, maybe in 2 different ways. But I love that concept of having to think about which one am I hitting, which officers am I going to bring to it. Was it double work for you to come up with 2 different invading entities, or tell me about your thought process on how that all came together?
Yeah, it was definitely obviously more because we had to think about we have 2 different kinds of invading entities to fight. Okay, what's the challenge, the different challenge here? How do we solve that challenge? What tools will we give you to solve that challenge? And for us, what we are trying to aim for there is to present slightly different challenges. One is very much a tanky challenge. This is all about you've got to beat their ability to heal and their shield and their hit points in a limited number of rounds. It's all about optimizing your damage whilst focusing a little bit less on how much you can soak. And it's the opposite's true for the static, where it's more about, hey, they're going to deal a lot of damage. You've got more time, so you're thinking more about soaking more of what damage they're doing to you, whilst also obviously killing them within 50 rounds. So what we wanted here, what we're trying to do with these different round limited battles, is to present different kinds of challenges that cause you to really think about what crews, what extra comps do I use, what ships do I bring, what's the right combination to beat this challenge, and to make it a slightly more interesting experience over just clicking on there's hostiles and mindlessly. Yes, definitely with the design portion of this, where we're going to go, okay, how do we present these different challenges? And yes, it could be perceived as 2 different loops, but in reality, we're trying to make it the same flow. So you kind of go, what challenge do I fancy today? Oh, I'll go for static because I'm interested in some building parts, or whatever you might be looking at, or I want to get some charged currency, and okay, I'll get my directives. I'll go grab my exocomp. I'll go take him on. Right now, obviously everyone's like trying to figure out what ship they have and what crews they have access to do the best they can, and to see like, okay, if I got my Kelvin out and just tweak this thing and finally got hold of Gwen, maybe that will be the solution that I can.
He's the solution to a lot of problems over there. Let me tell you that, right?
Yeah. Yes. It's so far the Krenim, the duality of it, these different temporal, polarized challenges. Yeah, we thought it'd be a nice, fun way to present different challenges to the players, different aspects of, hey, can you really beat this challenge we're presenting? And then being, really kind of, especially for those who are looking to like rank up their faction. You're getting a lot of reputation, you're getting a lot of credit. So anyone who's looking for, okay, I really want to get to glorified, I really want that next ship, and it's really there to give you a nice efficient way to like, hey, this is a nice easy way I can just add to my amount of reputation I'm earning every week and credit, and really accelerate my core FCAR ship progression.
That's a part of the faction store associated with this new loop and the Department of Temporal Investigations, that DTI building. Now, when we start the month, the first objective is to get that building built, because that unlocks
Yes.
our basically our mission to get out in the Delta Quadrant, correct?
Yeah, you definitely want to unlock the building first and get it leveled. It has a lot of power in that building. I think everyone's seen, you're getting some nice isolated damage and mitigation that helps with just everything. And then you're getting the damage bonus to the Krenim. This will immediately help you do better. And also along the way, you're getting the Matter Refinery unlocked, and also you're getting a whole load of encrypted exchange currency at level 20 and everything else that will give you a whole load of FTR reputation. So there's a lot of reasons to upgrade that building and to unlock all those additional things that will help you do far better when fighting those Krenim.
Yes, as we get into that, the faction store and what is in there, absolutely, whatever level you're at, if you're a player in the 20s is getting started this year, or if you've been playing for 5 years and you're progressing through G6 like I am, even in the mid to higher 60s, we're all chasing, even to this day, that faction rep. And having something to really catapult you forward is something that's compelling to anybody at any level. And it seems like when you came up with what the rewards were in the faction store, obviously the FKR reputation was a big component. It's a little bit further on into the progression of that building, but definitely a major carrot that you're dangling to get us further into that building. Is that fair to say?
Yes, not just the one-time rewards you get when you hit level 20, you get the Alpha Unlock chest that gives you 200 million of the encrypted exchange currency. It's a big chunk of change. You get that one time, you get the upgrade to additional, you get even more encrypted exchange currency as you level up and stuff like that.
And that encrypted exchange currency, because I'm not there yet in the game, but as I recall, is that a one-to-one? You basically pick which faction you want to go for. Federation.
You unlock favors. The favors add to the bundle. So as you get each of those faction favors at the top there, the detailed favors, that will add a Federation rep, then it'll add Klingon rep, then it'll finally add ROM relation rep. And each time you go exchange, you'll get all 3 reps at once. So
that's amazing.
Like it's a fantastic way to celebrate all 3 factions at once. And yeah, for the intention here was we really wanted to accelerate, to give you an incentive to wait. Here's a way to get to rank up your core factions and to get a hold of those nice ships.
So definitely a great reason to participate. So then what is the work involved? What do we have to do? When we find this new Voyager space and we enter these buildings, we see these systems, we see static and we see charged invading entities. They look a little like armadas. They work a little like armadas, but they are not armadas, just like Ceres a few months ago. These are attacked and strategized a completely different way. So you said that you created a static and a charged based on what crew do I want to use that day, what rewards do I want to go over in the faction store that day, and we all now know that there are these very important exocomps, the anti-charged and the anti-static exocomp to attack these enemies. How important is crewing in addition to using the right exocomp? If I just pop the right exocomp, am I bringing anybody I want? Or was your intention really to focus on a strategy for crewing for a static versus a charged invading enemy?
I mean, roughly the same crews will be fine for either. It's this slightly different tweak challenge where you might want to change some of your BDAs, your blue deck officers around. Because you might go, oh, I need slightly more damage because I'm hitting the 50-round limit, is what you might see currently. Or you might see the opposite, where, oh, I'm taking a lot of damage here. Maybe I don't need to do as much damage. I can switch some of them around. I can put Torres in or whoever else, and instead, and I can just take a little bit less damage. I'm okay. I can still kill it fine in the 30, 50 rounds, but I want to take a little bit less damage so I can go, kill another one straight after, hopefully. And so yeah, the crewing aspect, it's mainly, of course, for invading entities, you need a slightly different crew. You cannot use pure Armada crews. That's one of the things we are improving and making sure that players understand that these officers are the right officers to use and do not use Cisco, for example.
Yeah, Beck likes plants, and the team that communicates with us via the internet and Discord made a really good blog post about that. You are not bringing Armada officers to this. You're definitely bringing the invading entities officers is a big component, even with the exocomps, right?
Yes, even with the exocomps, you still need those key officers. Obviously, the best, if you want to get hold of them, is people like Gwen DeMarco is absolutely like best ever officer to bring these fights. So if you keep engaging with and doing the chimeras in the Saris invasions, and you find other ways to source, get hold of Gwen. She's obviously the best, for a lot of both armadas and invading entities. That's top tier. There's all the other officers that all do invading officers. The symbiosis crews are great for this. The you got also older classic crews. Voyagers, a very common crew that everyone has, that you can probably, most people will have, and that's a good one to use as well. The idea here was we wanted it to be think about it slightly differently to, okay, now I've got to have my invading entities crew that I just need to develop. And then I need to think about this extra challenge of, okay, they're pretty tough, these guys, so I need to tweak and optimize a little bit more. Think about, okay, I need to soak a little bit more, or I need to deal with it with damage, or I need to really okay, I need to use Lorca's active ability because I really need that extra damage because I, to get that a couple of extra rounds in, so I get under the 30 rounds.
Right.
And it's really trying to push the needle there, the challenge level to go. Just think about this. Think about your fleet commanders. Look at your crews. Think about your below deck officers and the ships you're bringing. And we're seeing players come up with like amazing combinations that are actually like, they're not just even like hitting credit at their level. They're actually hitting up, and that's like amazing because we were the challenge is obviously really tough, and to see players.
That's the main strategy point that we talk about all the time in the game. Are we really building for more of a loot crew and hitting down to try to maximize our loot, or are we trying to build a crew where we can punch up a little bit and get a bigger reward? So it seems like that when you created the reward tables for these hostiles, you really had hitting at your level or hitting slightly up in mind. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, you need to hit near your level, otherwise you just won't get enough loot with the directives you have, right? You're gonna need like 5 or 6 kills to get a single refinery if you hit way down. And so the incentive here is, hey, you need to really push yourself, get close to your level, then you're gonna be able to like get so much more. And we're seeing, it is tough because not a lot of players have like good ships, and so they're trying to figure out the right combinations that work. Obviously they're reading the community forums, they're sharing advice between the alliance mates, and they're willing. Oh yeah, I need to bring this crew, the Nesmith crew, and okay, that's part one. Okay, I'm gonna take out my Newton and get my Enterprise, and okay, now I can beat these, the level 42 Crenum. Great. Now I've got a starting place from where I can begin. And, from there, it kind of builds upwards to similar to the Continuum arc with the Q assimilated guys with the polygons and the O3s. You've got I've got a solution here that works. And then this kind of locks the way for, okay, next time Saris returns, I've now got like an absolutely amazing crew and combination that will just make it so much easier on that side as well.
What was the thought process this time around, adding the ability to bring a second ship versus the Saris invasion, or the polygons and so on, which we're only bringing the one ship?
Yeah, with this one, we want to slightly change the challenge to make you think about a second ship, because obviously it's slightly easier to think about one ship, one crew. Obviously, it's a little bit easier to think about and figure out because it's essentially like, okay, I just need to kind of bring a hostile crew and then slightly change, whatever my best favorite ship is. With this one, we're like, okay, now it's going to be challenging. It's going to be difficult. We wanted to think about not just one ship, but 2 ships. And so often, players may only look at, hey, I've only got like my Enterprise, hey, okay, I need to really think about what is the second ship I could bring that's really good. Would it be my Monovine? Oh, would it be my Borg Cube? Okay, now I need to think about a second crew. What other crew do I have available that can work, to fight these Crenum? So now, it is double the trouble. You're thinking about 2 ships instead of 1. But we think, that's what presents the extra challenge of, I've got my strategy. I've got to think about what's the main ship? What's doing all the damage? What's the support ship that's doing all the support roles? And you're kind of just thinking strategically more like, classic RTS game where you're thinking about your fleet rather than just one ship.
So if you were building the perfect fleet to bring to your new hostile, it sounds like you're making one ship be the big gun attack ship, and then the second ship bringing all the support for the whole breach and the burning and so on. Is that basically how you would build your 1-2 wombo combo?
Yeah, I think so. I think you would want to go, okay, what's my most powerful like core ship that does a lot of damage? Typically that'd be your best FKR ship, or maybe the Borg cube, depending on what you focused on. And you go, okay, this is gonna be my main ship. I'm gonna put my main, best invading entity officers on there. And then the second crew are going to, the second ship is really about, okay, what else do we need to do? We need to debuff, the credit, or we need to, provide support, roll, take some of the soak some of the damage. So this crew will be slightly more focused on the tanking. And it's kind of like, working out that combination that synergizes together. And yeah, I think principally most people, will go, okay, yeah, I've got my, in my case, I've got my little Newton going along. I'll use my Newton as the main ship, and then I'm currently using the my Epic Enterprise, to as a second ship, and I was like, yeah, 42, great. And I think it's very similar here, where you want to go, okay, this is a ship I'm really comfortable with. This is the one that really does all the damage, and it synergizes well with I got my best invading entity crew there. Second ship, okay, let's go with who's my really good. A lot of people have Khan or Lorca, and good old Pike. And so it's like, okay, let's put some of my best epics on here. They'll be the support crew. They're going to do a lot of the assistance and either adding extra damage or soaking up a little bit more tank. And I think that kind of strategy is the one where I think we've seen that. I think that's the kind of challenge we're trying to present here. Is can you think about this combination, or the interesting combinations that maybe even do amazing results? Like you're like, hey, I'm like hitting 5 levels up because there's just amazing combination I've just figured out that just works, and Krenim just don't know what to do.
I love that. It must be challenging from a game design standpoint to look at a property like this game, which is, on its 6th year, and it's so diverse and so vast, and there are so many players at different points in the game. How do you handle the challenge of creating something that makes sense for somebody like you just said in G4 to play? Many of your examples were G4. And then also think about the people who are in G5 and G6. We have different ships, we have different officers. There's got to be more to it than just, oh, I'll make a level 42 hostile and a level 68 hostile, and it all shakes out. How do you plan a hostile that makes sense for so many different generations of players to interact with in all those different ways? Is that easy, or is that really challenging?
No, it is challenging. We spend a lot of time figuring out, especially over the different grades. Okay, what kind of ships do they have? What are they actually looking for? As a player, what do I want? What am I looking for incentive-wise? What challenge am I trying to solve? What am I interested in? That does change for the grades. What's most appealing to people. And when we're looking at how do we present a challenge that works and scales to all the different experts, as you approach the higher grades, you have more research, you have more ships available, you have more officers available, so your options are always wider. Whereas someone lower down the grades will have less of that. They won't have all those lovely officers and every other option of a high level monovine or whatever else they might have available to them. And so we're looking at okay, when we're presenting a challenge, is this a challenge for them? For each of those kind of different players who are different parts of their journey, and go, okay, for each grade, what is the kind of challenge we could present here that's still challenging and not too easy, but not too difficult. It has to be something where you go, I can see a solution here that will get me the extra 20% damage I need in order to defeat this enemy. And hopefully it presents a way for you to hey, congratulations, you've beaten the challenge. And also you feel yeah, I've just taken down a really tough boss fight essentially, and defeated the big bad, saved the universe, and got my rewards as a result. And hopefully the rewards as well, are also yeah, that's cool. I see I spent 10 minutes doing this, 20 minutes, whatever it might take. And now I've gotten my cool rewards. I'm back home celebrating with the rest of the game back at my station.
I love it. And then we go to the faction store and we see what we can do with those credits. What was the thought process when you put the DTI store together? We have officers in there that seem mostly relevant to invading enemies. How do you pick what officers to include in a store like this?
when we're looking at the officers to add, what we wanted to go, okay, what officers make sense for invading entities? So we're kind of giving a few hints and clues as to what officers you might want to look at and think about getting hold of. We want to present the solution to, if you're really getting cool, you love the Krenim, here are ways to improve fighting the Krenim. So here are some officers that you might be interested in. There's some in there that maybe a lot of people don't have that are a bit unusual. Like Leslie is always a fun one for a bit of.
I saw Leslie popping in there. What was the mindset about including him? Again, like I said at the top, officers from way back in the past being introduced to a new feature like this. Where does Leslie fit into this plan from a game design standpoint?
He doesn't directly fit into the Krenim, but we thought players might be interested in. Maybe there's a Leslie combination that would be fun to try. Just to see if or it's also because we haven't really given a good source of Leslie beforehand, and it's like, hey, people, you might find that appealing. I want to get some Leslie shards. Why not?
That is always the right carrot to dangle. Give us an officer that is impossible or difficult to source, and that'll definitely motivate us to engage, right?
Yeah, and the rest with Khan, same thing, very appealing officer. We use it in, Khan's so useful everywhere, pretty much. Khan's so useful, same thing. And then with the Symbiosis crew, obviously that makes sense. They are invading entity and modern officers. They're pretty recent. They're also pretty good. And so we felt obviously this is directly tied into the Krenim. Hey, Symbiosis officers, they are the crew to really do good things against the Krenim. And also we're looking at generally, we're fighting the Krenim, a lot is dependent upon your crews. And so we really wanted to provide, hey, here's a solution to what we're looking for. It's like when you go, I need 20% more damage. Where do I get that from? Ooh, if I just ranked up my Khan, ooh, that might do it. And it's just looking at that kind of reward what would be appealing for everyone to go, hey, this is a way I can improve, and Khan's useful everywhere else, and that's a reason why I want to do this loop.
It never ceases to amaze me as we meet new players that are in their 10s and 20s and in G3 maybe even, that don't they have that epiphany moment. Oh, this is not really just about the ship that I'm building. It's really about which officers I'm going to invest time to rank up, because the officers really make all the difference in many cases, and this is certainly no exception. Let's talk a little bit about the economy to engage in these. Also in the faction store, we have, of course, the exocomp. We have the anti-static Krenim invaders and the anti-charge Krenim invader exocomps. To purchase those in the faction store, you need the DTI requisition form 13A. I was going to ask you about the other 12 requisition forms, but we won't have time for that. So let's just talk about 13A. What's the economy like from the game design standpoint? What did you envision in terms of how many of these exocomps do we want the players to be able to purchase in a given day? How many shots per day or per week do we really want to give them at the Krenim invaders? What does that look like from a game design standpoint and a time spent in game standpoint for you when you're putting this together?
Sure. Yeah, the main thing to think about is the directives, really, because that's really how many battles are you getting for free at
least. We get one per day, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, one per day. So really what we're looking at there is, hey, if you are not spending in buying packs, you're going to do 7 battles a week once you've settled in and got a rhythm down, a routine down. And really what here we're trying to look at, okay, in about 30 minutes worth of time, I can, per week, if I do my 7 battles, even one go, or I do them one per day, and then I can do I can get a whole bunch of loot, convert that over, and get a whole bunch of credits. It's very similar to running, the solo armadas in the Bajoran loop, or everywhere else where you kind of saving up enough directives to then run those things. Very similar here. Yeah, it's designed. We want it to be a net time saving. So if you're fighting the Krenim, we're not adding overall net, it's not even more time spent in the game having to do more grind. No, this one's actually should be a net time saving, where the rewards you get to actually save you time elsewhere. That's the hope here. The desire.
I'm really glad that you said that. You think about it. My takeaway from that is you're really thinking about it from a weekly engagement standpoint. And we're going into the faction store and we're making that claim once daily, or it's once per day. But then once you have a good 7 together, then let's pop that exo and let's focus on this more of a once a week thing, and then come back after we have those 7 victories and really cash in on that faction store and everything that we have to offer there. So many players always think about things from a daily standpoint, but if you take a step back and see, okay, so the concept here is let's set aside, a half an hour for a week and get it done and then bring those rewards into the store because there's so much to do in the game. We don't need to do this every single day. We can focus on, different aspects of the game, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, we don't overload. I mean, you can totally run it, per day. You can totally do that. You can go do your one, your one battle. Once it's sorted, get your one battle, and if you're doing well, you will be able to convert immediately your one refinery straight to that and spend those credits. You can totally do that, and that's the flexibility and freedom we've given to you. Pick. Do you want to do it every day, or just want to run it at the weekend? And that was the intention here of, hey, every week you can do this, you can do your 7 battles, or daily you do your 1 battle. Up to you. Pick when you want to run it. And then you can, hopefully you'll master the Krenim and be able to go, okay, I've risen to the challenge. I've now got this, and I see a reason why I want to run this, eat 1 a day or 7 each week.
I love that.
So you'll get your XComp. And we do give 1 out each day as well. So it's up to you if you want to use an XComp each day and the directive, or you just want to use 1 XComp at the weekend and do it all in 1 hit.
I love that. Now, we also have some new artifacts in the game, and you do have them direct to source here in your faction store, the Krenim Time Weapon and Janeway's Pocket Watch. Now, that Krenim Time Weapon looks like that's going to make a real big difference when you level that up and get that on one of your ships. What was the thought process on adding that type of an artifact on month 1 straight away into the game? Is that what players are really meant to chase in order to punch up by the end of the month into the second month and get more rewards?
Yeah, with those 2 artifacts and the chaos tech, what we're really looking for there was what would be like really appealing as like a signature key exclusive reward that would be neat to the game and give you something cool that'd be very appealing. That's like, hey, I really want this. This is like I want to add to my collection. I want to be able to level up. I've got my great AI of Ara all leveled up, and I really want this because obviously it gives like a kind of a unique power. Same thing with Janeway's Pocket Watch.
That's a great PvP component there. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're like, okay, this is very useful. It's like if I add that to my collection, it's exciting. I want to get it. I'd say, hey, you can only get it by defeating the Krenim. And obviously we're looking at like what is the key like kind of exclusive stuff you can't get anywhere else. That's a good reason why I can keep coming back when I want to, keep chipping away, and I want to really focus on getting Janeway's Pocket Watch. And so I'm going to use all my credits to spend on there and to give you some choice and some unique rewards that make it interesting to keep coming back, and a reason why you'd want to keep doing the Krenim into the future. And hopefully there'll be something appealing in the store for everyone, including either unique artifacts or the chaos tech or whatever else it might be.
Well, we're definitely hitting PvE. We're hitting PvP with these. I love that Janeway's Pocket Watch is a builder of isolated damage. Of course, Captain Janeway was the first officer and really the introduction to isolated damage in the game, I think coming up on 2 years ago. If you get the Pocket Watch up to level 12, that's an additional 40% of isolated damage, which is basically, I believe, very close to what a max Janeway does. So it doubles the isolated damage output. Was that you who gets the flowers for making Janeway's Pocket Watch be an isolated damage component to match the actual character? Because I think that was really cool.
That was a combination of people. That was the theming when narrative came from our lovely narrative team, and also they see, okay, what kind of bonus are we looking at giving, and they try to match the theme and the history. Obviously, artifacts are cool because it's a lot of bit of geeky history where everyone goes, oh my god, that's the Pocket Watch from this episode, and it's a lot of the lore. I think I love artifacts because of the lore involved. You go, oh, I do
too. I love the lore, and that's why I pointed out. I think that's great because that fits in with the lore absolutely perfectly. I think it might even make up for the first time Voyager came around and Neelix was not the morale officer. I mean, I'm still going crazy about that. The burning officer. But anyways, the Pocket Watch is great. And then we also have the Chaos Tech. Boy, Chaos Tech is really advancing what we can do within the game. This temporal overdrive matrix, you made it good for hostiles, for armadas, and for invading enemies. So this is something that everybody can really find some use in. It does Apex barrier increase. There's a crit damage increase. There's a shield repair per round increase up to 30%. Would you say that this is one of the better chaos techs in the game this month? Because I would
Yes.
say so.
Even yeah, it's very very good. Almost to the borderline of like we're like, are we being a little bit wild doing this? And we're like, yeah, and we are like, when we're playtesting it and checking it, and obviously, with Continuum, the Chaos Tech is our brand new thing. Hey, here's a whole new slot, and and you can go get your Chaos Tech in Continuum. You can level it up, get all the materials you need from there, and obviously you can unlock the Chaos Tech with the Krenim, these guys, and go do like an amazing amount of damage. Especially again, if you're looking for that, what could I do to really power myself up? Those two are one of the solutions you could try, and hopefully that would be appealing to people. Go, I want to really get a hold of that because it seems like it's going to add Janeway's worth of isolating damage plus all the damage I get from the DTI building. I'm just going to be a monster, and that's great, right? Because then you've got. Now I know how to do how I can finally punch up those Krenim.
I love it.
And
well, CHRONOTIS, that's a really good recap of the Krenim and what happens in that faction store. Obviously, we talked a little about the DTI headquarters, and unlocking with that is also this material converter. Now, this is a brand new concept in the game and something that I can't point to another example of something this robust in terms of exchanging one type of currency for another within the game. What was the thought process? Why now on this material converter and what it does and what it doesn't do? Can you take us through the thought process of how you design this and what the benefit is and who it's for?
Yeah, with the material converter, we were aware that what would be an appealing kind of cool thing for everyone to do, and we all have those those items and materials in our inventories that we don't really need anymore, that are just kind of gathering dust. And then we have the all the stuff we do need, and with the idea of the DTI build, it's like, oh, they're messing with the timelines and temporal matter. Maybe we could thematically fit in a way for a feature where you could go, okay, here's something I don't really need. It's just kind of sitting there. I want to turn it into something useful, kind of similar to scrapping. It's like, here's a load of things I can take. I'll just build a ship. I'll scrap it. I'll get the things I do actually care about, higher grade materials. Similar appeal here. It's like, hey, players, we have a lot of excess materials of different grades that we maybe don't need, or maybe we need loads of uncommons and we have a load of rares. That's often the case, right? You have to go, oh man, I've got like 200 rares, and what I really need is 1,000 commons or uncommons. And so we thought, there's a good appeal there that player we would find this useful, and a cool feature that would be it's kind of useful. It'd help get hold of the materials we desperately need. It'd help clean up the things we don't need that are just gathering dust, and we felt it fit thematically with the building. And so we look at, this is a cool feature. And obviously, it's just the foundations. It's the beginning. So obviously, I think everyone's been talking about what the feature could be. There's obviously a lot we could and do here in the future. And that's why I think is the cool part is it's the potential of where this can go, and also what the power it's unlocking, to be able to go, okay, I really need these things, and this is going to be appealing to convert, a load of this materials over, and every day or week I'll just run through my refineries and I'm going to convert over each thing, or maybe whenever at the weekend when I've got a bit more time, I'll go through these and do some conversion.
Yeah, Hammy, when we talk about player feedback and we're looking at what's going on Discord and through our channels, players have come up with a huge wish list of things that a material converter could ultimately do in the game. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of that on your side. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of discussion over on official about the matter converter. Not really as much as you would think, though. Primarily, the discussions we've seen is working on strategies to defeat the Krenim.
Yeah,
that was actually the main point of conversation. Like on launch day, I don't remember too many launch days where the conversation was so dedicated to how do we beat these things, officer combinations, ship combinations. It was just something kind of new. I think there was also a little bit of confusion. We did hear that it was a fairly complex new loop that we were putting out there, but we did add that blog recently that really kind of helped players understand which crews are going to be helpful and which aren't. So overall, yeah, from what we're seeing over on Discord, if it's one thing, it's there is a lot of conversation about the new content for this arc, and I know what my reputation is, but I think it's going actually pretty well so far in comparison to some of the other arcs that we've done recently.
That's good. Yeah, the blog post titled "Combining." Oh no, I'm sorry. Let me start over. The blog post entitled "Combating the Krenim Invading Entities" was posted yesterday by Beck on January the 8th, and it goes really in depth in terms of the Krenim and the hostiles, what works, what doesn't work. So if you have not seen that yet, definitely go and check that out. CHRONOTIS, when you design a feature like this, and this is something that's been so widely asked for and popular, this material converter, there are so many things to consider when you're thinking about the impact on the game. I imagine there's a lot of it's like Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility, right? It would be one thing to just turn the floodgates on and let's say, hey, let's have grade 4 convert to grade 6 and this and all that and the other things. How important is it to be judicious from the standpoint of being incremental and one thing at a time, if you will? How do you weigh that in terms of what you're bringing into the game as a designer? I mean, there are things like, do I put a time gate on it? Do I put a tax on it? What do I allow to be converted and what not? How do you design something that doesn't necessarily break a game but introduce a new feature but not go too far? What sort of thought process goes into something like that?
Yeah, with this one, we particularly were looking at, okay, what is a good starting point? Where can we begin from? That would, introduce the feature and provide a good, like, hey, yeah, people have excess materials. And this would be useful because, hey, that'll help them get the materials they need faster. And then, yeah, we looked at, okay, what are the things we do want to achieve? We want to make it, it's appealing that, hey, I can use up, old materials I don't care about. Cool. You will find that feature appealing. The second thing is, obviously, we don't want to make it the most efficient way to get the thing you want. There's ways you get your G6 materials, the primary routes. We don't want it to be better than those ones where you're like, I don't need
there
to.
We go. So we don't want to create that shortcut which bypasses another important part of the game, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. We want you to still be going out there and running G6 space and mining and everything else. We don't want you to be it's like, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. I am going to instead do G4 because now I'm going to convert everything upwards. That would be one of the ways where we go, oh, we don't want that to happen because that'd be kind of bad, and people, you would no longer need to go get your G6 ships and do all the G6 lovely things.
So
Instead,
it's fair to say that you really have to look from a top-down level on what's going on in the entire game when you're adding a feature like this, and kind of go low and slow. It sounds like there might be a future for this to go somewhere else, but I'll tell you, in my backyard, I'm putting in a pergola and a barbecue, and I just had the plumber come out and he installed the gas line and the water line underwater. And what I learned when the inspector came is that he does have to test everything under pressure, but they don't crank it from 0 to 10 right away. They go low and slow, and they turn things on a little bit at a time to make sure that things are copacetic before we go forward.
Exactly. We
fair
follow the
analogy,
same,
right?
yeah, we follow the same principle here. We want to give enough that still valuable, but at the same time, we don't want to go, oh, yeah, we just like destroyed G6 or whatever it might be, the worst case scenario. With this, we go, yeah, that's a nice introduction point. There's a few like dials we can turn that will improve it, that will make it better, and we'll look at data, we'll look at the feedback we're getting from the community. And we'll go, oh yeah, like here's it now. We've seen everything. We're confident now that it's cool. We can obviously go, what is the next step? What is the next step in our roadmap for the material converter? Next step, okay, let's roll out a few more improvements.
Yeah. Well, we never talked about the future of the game, but we can say that we can certainly all agree that we're talking, the language that you're using is starting point, see what happens. So there is potentially a future for this feature, which I think is all we can hope for in hearing today. And we're happy that it exists in the game in this state. Let's see how it does and what it does for the game, and go on from there. But I love the feature, and I do love how it ties in with the lore. So congratulations.
We've been totally looking at all the feedback. You'll be getting lots of feedback reports around it and all the things that everyone's saying, all the ideas around how it could be improved. And we're totally taking that in and looking at what can we do, when can we do it, what makes sense to do that would improve the game overall for everyone. And we're definitely looking at particularly at like how can we what can we do next for the material converter.
I love that. Well, as we're looking through the year of hell, we've covered almost everything. One other feature we haven't talked about yet is something we see every month: new officers in the game. So this month you had the privilege of starting another set of Voyager officers, but you're also completing something that was developed in the few months prior to that. So we have a new, essentially a strike team in the game for Battleship, for Explorer, and for Interceptor. And this was the third month, kind of rounding that out. Can you talk a little bit about the officers and what the thought process was in what their abilities are and where you see them having value in the game?
Yeah, the final trio of the anti-battleship strike team. This was obviously sent to go, okay, we're reversing the original strike teams and creating a niche like, hey, this is a team that will counter a very specific combination. And what we're looking at here was obviously there's a battleship focus, right? The anti-battleship part. And the key one we were looking at was, okay, we need, when you like with this officers, you got them crewed up, they will actually and you got the captain's maneuvers and everything else, and you got those all ranked up, they will actually start to outperform the classic crewman crew and a few other crews. So we're looking at okay, players would, you'll find this appealing because if I focus and I really target down on battleships, I have the solution that will completely stomp all over a player who's just brought a freeman crew. And so we got that's generally the theme of these specialist strike teams. And then we're looking at what abilities would be cool. And we're like, okay, wow, the captain's ability, rapidly increasing shots, so powerful. It was almost like borderline what I call overpowered in the way it'll work. In that you'll probably find that this will be pretty insane in terms of how it's going to change the meta with PvP. And we think that will drive some of the appeal incentive here of why you might want to own these officers and get hold of them. Same thing with the officer abilities. On the rares, they're either doing Apex Barrier or shots. Sorry, not shots. Isolated Cascade. And same thing there. Very powerful ramping abilities that will count on each other and really ramp up that damage. And hopefully we'll see, oh yeah, this is like a counter to I can beat those the MU teams. I can maybe beat the Freeman teams, and we think it will provide a nice little counter strategy. Same as the other counter strike teams, where you go, oh yeah, if I'm a hunter and I'm going after a specific prey, this is the crew to use. Or I'm in arenas, and it's like, yes, I've got my specialist crew that will just stomp over everything. And so we think a lot of the board focus will be more in using the officer abilities, and the captain's maneuver particularly is going to be pretty powerful, almost borderline insane. And then with the below deck abilities, what we're looking at there was there's obviously there's the they only work if you don't have a status effect on yourself. And that was obviously an interesting challenge that we were like, okay, if we do this, when it does trigger, it's going to be pretty damn powerful. And what we found is, at least in our own internal testing, is actually, this is actually pretty good. There's a lot of situations where you don't have status effects, like you're fighting an explorer crew, for example, who are using morale, or other situations, or times when you don't actually have a status effect, on that round. Suddenly it's triggering and you're going to see a net overall, oh wow, that actually did pretty decent contribution. As we feel that with the below deck abilities, it'll be a little bit situational, but still when it does trigger in the right situations, totally it'll be very valuable as a BDA. And the core appeal would definitely be having this sort of primary core with that captain's maneuver and combination with a few other officers. You're going to find this is going to be a nice combination to kind of counter some of the MU teams out there.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what the stats are on the BDA abilities, for example, Tuvok, if you max them, you're getting 25,000 Apex Barrier, which is just a crazy amount, especially when you compare with other things. But this is something that we've never tried in the game, with this no state applied to yourself. And I like what you said about when you're up against an explorer. Typically, explorers will be focused more on morale, which is something that will apply to their ships, not to necessarily the opponent's ship, not to my ship. We certainly have many other estates out there right now that are PvP, like Assimilate and things of that nature. But you're saying in your testing, when there was no state, it's super powerful. The question yet remains, how many battles out there in the Star Trek universe are occurring where no state is applied to your specific ship? But we're going to try that out this month and see what type of effect it has. Just trying something new is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. We think, try it. We'll hopefully see some positive feedback, especially from those who early players who will get hold of the officers in the in the events, and they'll hopefully try it out and go, oh, actually, when I've been experimenting and doing arenas, actually this is actually contributing. I'm seeing value from putting this in the BDA slot, and it's worthwhile of taking one of those slots if you're using the BDA format, or I'm going to put it in the bridge, and I'm going to going to use them in their primary role. And wow, then it's like I'm able to beat MU Picard occasionally.
Very good. Well, I mean, that's up to the players out there to invest their time. One thing that we do see this month, and I realize this is on the event side, not the game design side, but there is an opportunity to source a rare officer for free this month, which is something that we always love to see. In addition to the ability, of course, to invest something and unlock these officers. So, will you out there be unlocking these officers, and what will the experience be like? We'll hear more about that as the month progresses. I don't know that everybody has had the opportunity to do that yet. So let's see where that goes. Chronotis, this arc is packed with just a ton of stuff. How long does it take somebody to prepare an arc of this? Are you working on things like this for months before they launch?
Oh, yes. The whole thing takes around 5 months.
Wow.
From inception to where we got like just an idea to all the way down to when we actually enter production, and then to the last few weeks where we're refining everything and doing everything else and doing all the last bits of polishing. Yeah, it's almost like 5, almost 6 months in some cases.
That's amazing. And if history is any indicator, Year of Hell has not come to its completion just in the month of January. You must be awaiting in some form of anticipation to see what the future brings for us, and how, once we get used to this new content, it is altered, modified, or improved with a couple tricks that you still have up your sleeve. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I'm excited for what the future holds.
Very good.
And
Well,
hopefully you will be as well.
I can't wait for it. Voyager, like you, I grew up watching Voyager. So anytime we get new Voyager content in the game, I am always a fan of that. Chronotis, I really appreciate you taking the time out and a whole hour with us this fine day to talk about the content and give us some insight as to the thought process on how do I develop this? What do I bring into the game? How can I take a property that's on its 74th iteration of updates and still bring something new and fun and cool into it? And I think that with this evading entity aspect of the new faction store and what the new building is doing, if nothing else, you've certainly accomplished bringing a ton of great new content to us to experiment with and see how that goes. Chronotis, anything else you want to tell the commanders out there on our channel before we say goodbye?
It's been great talking here today, and I really look forward to all the community feedback and all the suggestions. We do totally monitor, listen, read, get all the valuable feedback collated from the community team here, and and all this suggesting the great ideas. We always look forward to those and hearing those. So always keep suggesting, keep asking, keep poking and prodding. So we love that, and we love the game as much as you guys. We hope that was reflected in everything we do.
And it certainly is. Chronotis, that's a familiar name. Your call sign, where does that come from?
I started out life on EVE Online, space MMO. I've been in the design world for quite a while, doing lots of different multiplayer games.
I love it. Is there a Doctor Who tie-in to Chronotis?
There is, yeah. Chronotis is a sort of evil Time Lord who went a bit rogue in the far gone reaches of Gallifrey, and was eventually defeated. But I kind of like him because he's a bit nuts, a bit wild of a character, and obviously being a mysterious Time Lord who's kind of just sat there doing Doctor Who things on the in the Time Wars. And I like him as a sort of weird, mysterious character who's a bit crazy.
And now here we have the evil Time Lord in charge of bringing the Krenim into Star Trek Fleet Command, talking about evil Time Lords. He just wanted his wife back. Is he really an evil guy? I mean, everybody's the hero in their own story, right? He's just trying to recomplete his family. Come on.
Yes, yeah. No one's evil, thinks they're evil, right? When they are evil, it's all I'm the bad guy. Surely not.
Misunderstood.
Yeah.
Speaking from the community manager, definitely not a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Happy?
Yeah. No, I'm on team Chronotis. Totally. Also, as we start to kind of wrap things up, if it's okay with you, Griffin, I would just like to kind of send a message from past Hammy to present Hammy when this runs later on. I would just like to tell myself that I think you're either doing a great job on this appearance so far or about to do a great appearance. Keep up the good work, buddy. Nice.
I think that's so uplifting and positive. And you have had your lights on the tree this whole entire time for the past hour. The servers have not gone down. So I think that maybe we started a new year and a new thing, and that's been snapped. Hammy, thank you for all you're doing out there in the community. I've been watching
Totally.
Discord, and yeah, there are a lot of questions about the invading enemies here and what to do. And I hope that the time that we had to spend with Chronotis this hour was insightful, getting some insight on not only how to engage into the content, but how it was developed and why, which is something that we are always interested in hearing on this channel as the math nerds, as the Crujitsu freaks, as the people who really like to dive into this game and take the most advantage of it. Thank you very much, Chronotis, for all the great content and everything that you do for this game. It's such a pleasure to meet you, and we look forward to maybe having you on in the future when you have the next one roll around.
Oh, totally. Yeah, look forward to the next one.
Thank you, Hammy. Thank you for all your time today and everything you're doing out there in the community. I'm sure we'll be talking again shortly. This is Griffin, Talking Trek, the official podcast, Star Trek Freak Man, and we'll see you out there in the universe.